Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We are live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a 1 in the live chat, and then we can get today's show started. And as usual, while I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live chat, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that it helps to make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you're one of those ghost watchers, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you could be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. That is extremely important that you do that to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. Okay, please do that. That is extremely important. And now that I can see that you can all see and hear me clearly, let's get the show underway. Okay, let's get into this right now. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen and are aware of this and are familiar with the fact that recently, Joe Biden fell asleep on his Angola trip, right? Joe Biden completely knocked out on his Angola trip. He was on a 3-day Angola trip and going in other places in Africa as well. I believe recently he gave $1 billion to some country in Africa to help with infrastructure and, air quotes, right? We all know that that's just really payola going to so-called African leaders. That stuff is never going to trickle down to the people of said countries within Africa. But in the middle of his little 3-day tour in Angola, he was at this summit here, right, with African leaders, presidents, heads of state, and he literally just knocked out. Okay, he knocked out in the middle of the summit while these African leaders were talking and giving their presentations and talking about whatever it is that they were talking about. So I want to play this. It's only a minute long while we wait for some more people to come into the live stream, but this is just hilarious. This is the guy that's allegedly running the country. We'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment.
Of people, goods and services, but will also promote shared prosperity and inclusive growth across the region. Internal consultations aiming at aligning this project with national priorities and other bilateral and regional commitments. In closing, allow me to reiterate Tanzania's commitment to regional integration and shared prosperity. We note the progress made on the development of the Lobito Corridor and commend the visionary leadership.
Man, that's that good sleep right there. That's that good sleep right there. When you're knocking out someplace that you're not supposed to knock out at in the middle of a presentation, maybe at church or something like that, that's the good sleep. I kid you not. Oh, look, he woke up. He woke up. Oh man, he woke up. So here's the thing, right? Because we're not going to spend too much time on the fact that Joe fell asleep. But here's the other thing also that I want to show you guys real quick, just because I find it humorous. If you're unfamiliar with the setting that he's in the moment, right, you would think that like he's just sitting in his seat and like these guys are on stage talking, kind of like how you see at United Nations meetings. No, that's not true. They were right in his face. They were right in Joe's face, pretending like they didn't see that he fell asleep. And that's what's hilarious about this. They were pretending and acting like they didn't know he was asleep. You'll see if you were to watch this like on Forbes Breaking that the entire time they're talking, that he's talking and that Joe's sleeping, the president of Tanzania, and I believe that's the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, they're just looking down like this. They're looking down and not trying not to look at Joe fall asleep on him, right? But here's the thing. And I know people have said this before, but I just want to reiterate it again, right? Concerning Joe Biden falling asleep. This really has to make you think, not just now, but moving forward long term. Who is actually controlling the country when a Democrat wins? Because we know Joe's not running it. We know if Kamala won, she definitely was not going to be running it. And now we see here, and some of you are familiar with these reports that came out, I believe it was about a week ago, that they were saying that AOC is possibly going to run for president in 2028. AOC of all people. And we all know that, Lord have mercy, if AOC won the election in 2028, there's no way she's the one that's actually running the country. So it's just something to really think about and to really ponder over in elections to come in the future. If you're thinking about and considering voting blue, when you vote blue, you really don't know who you're actually voting into office, because clearly in between Biden, a possible Harris, who clearly lost, and then possibly AOC in 2028, we know it's none of them. We know it's none of them. So it's just something to think about, right? It's just something that I think that we should all think about. But moving forward, because as you saw in the title of the thumbnail, right? Don't sleep on Crooked Joe. While Joe Biden is asleep in Angola, knocking out in the middle of a presentation, sleeping for the world to see. This is our leadership, allegedly, right? While that's going on over there, his team is working hard, working overtime, going over whether or not they're going to give out preemptive pardons to Dr. F, as I like to say, Dr. Doom, right? The man of 2020, Adam Schiff, and Liz Cheney, and possibly even more than that, right? Let's get into this article very quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just so you get the gist of what's going on, right? President Biden's top aides are reportedly weighing the idea of issuing preemptive pardons to current and former government officials ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration next month. Former Representative Liz Cheney, Senator-elect Adam Schiff, Dr. F, also known as Dr. Doom, are among those being discussed as potentially needing a pardon before Trump takes office, according to Politico. Dr. F has been accused by Republicans and watchdog groups of lying to Congress about the origins of the great illness of 2020 and his use of private email account to do government business, right? And then as it pertains to someone like Adam, like Schiff, it's like Peter Schiff or Adam Schiff. Let me go back up again. I don't know why I forgot, brain farting. Adam. As it pertains to Adam Schiff, he's a congressman elected to the U.S. Senate last month, has long peddled accusations about the Trump campaign's alleged collusion with Russia during the 2016 election cycle, which we all know was a hoax. The whole Russian collusion thing was a hoax, right? It was a big hoax. So in order to essentially stand in the way of justice, right, which is what Biden is trying to do, is him to stand in the way of justice. What he's doing now is issuing out preemptive pardons, which is something that is really, honestly, unheard of. It's truly unheard of. I'm very familiar, and we're all very familiar with pardoning someone, that has been convicted of crime. But when you're seeing somebody like Biden attempt to pardon people like Dr. Doom over here for crimes that he could be convicted of and charged with in the future, that is the height of corruption, okay? That is the height of corruption. Even people like Ron DeSantis see it. You see the tweet here that he retweeted or reposted, re-X'd, whatever you call it now, right? Urgent political reports that the White House may pardon Dr. F to protect him from future federal investigation and prosecution. Ron DeSantis says, as if Biden hasn't abused the pardon power enough, which he has. Now, what's even more interesting about this, as we're watching this unfold, is that DNC affiliates, politicians, those that are in the media, so on and so forth, they're bending over backwards. They are bending over backwards to justify this type of corruption, right? And what I want to get into right now is that I want to play this video here from Jennifer Rubin and her podcast, where we're just going to listen to her just essentially justify this as being okay. So let's get into that right now. And as this video is playing, please hit the like button if you haven't already. That is extremely important for the growth of this channel.
Do about them? Well, I've been thinking about this long and hard, and I've come to the conclusion that Trump has sort of broken the mold once again, and so Biden needs to break the mold once again. Although the vast, vast majority of the people that Trump has his eye on, maybe all of them, frankly, have committed no crime, that is not going to stop him and Kash Patel and the rest of them, Pam Bondi at the Justice Department, from coming after them. So prospectively, what can Biden do? Well, he can issue blanket pardons to entire categories of people for any conduct relating to Donald Trump. It would cover everyone from witnesses in a trial or in a congressional proceeding. Poor Cassidy Hutchinson. You recall her. She was a star witness at the January 6th hearing. It would cover journalists. It would cover anyone who he has identified by name or type. Can he do that? Absolutely. Other presidents have.
So, as you can see here, the logic that she's attempting to use, because apparently Donald Trump has broken the mold, right? He's broken the mold. So now Biden has to do so as well. The logic is that because apparently Trump is going to be a corrupt dictator and he's not going to hold anyone accountable, right? But he's going to abuse his power as a corrupt dictator, because that apparently is what's going to happen. That then justifies Joe Biden operating as a corrupt dictator. You get what I'm saying? Protecting his cronies, as people like to say, from prosecution. Or I should say protecting them from receiving justice. In order to stop corruption, I have to become corruption. And that's the logic here that's being justified. But what's happening is now these people are opening Pandora's box for even greater corruption that could follow behind this, because now Biden has set precedent with this. We've never seen anything like this before. You're pardoning people before they could even get charged. You're pardoning people before an investigation can even happen. What happened to all that talk about the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump, blanket immunity? He has presidential immunity to do whatever he wants. And allegedly, he's going to take that presidential immunity and, gun down his political, his political enemies in the street. Those who disagree with him, he's going to take the army, boom, 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 knock them all down one by one in the street, execution. And he'll just have a presidential pardon by the Supreme Court to get away with all of it. You see how these people are always projecting? So while they were crying about Donald Trump getting this presidential pardon from the Supreme Court to do whatever he wants, he's going to wreak havoc on the country, this entire time they were actually talking about themselves. They knew that they were going to do this ahead of time. They're the ones that are handing out blanket pardons that expand over a 10-year period, if not longer, like what we saw with Hunter Biden. They're the ones that are actually engaging in the stuff that they continuously tell you that Donald Trump was going to do. But once again, the logic is, well, we have to do it first before he can do it so that we can protect ourselves and protect democracy. The logic is twisted. The logic is twisted because these people were always the ones who are corrupt. Now, I want to take a shift over right now to speak on NBC's Chuck Todd. Because, like I said, the corruption within the DNC and just how fake, phony, and fraudulent these people are, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They say one thing one day, and then the next day, they're right back on board, with the DNC nonsense. So I want to say it was Monday, right? Let me pull this up on the screen right now, actually. Where is this at? Let's come over here. Let me pull this tweet up. So Monday, Chuck Todd was on this man's podcast here. And a lot of people were sharing this video because apparently, well, not apparently, you're going to see it for yourself right now. Chuck Todd was going in on Joe Biden over pardoning Hunter Biden. And a lot of people were shocked couldn't believe it, right? Because we all know Chuck Todd is a DNC operative, right? He works with DNC. But they couldn't believe it. And I want to play this clip for you here before we move on. So let's listen to Chuck Todd from MSN or from NBC go in on Joe Biden for pardoning Hunter Biden.
Biden traveled very close.
Rewind it back just a little bit.
I followed the Hunter Biden trial very closely.
Mm-hmm.
I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
That was Monday. Okay. Once again, that's Chuck Todd from NBC. That was Monday. I want to play that last part again because he told the truth about Joe Biden. He said Joe Biden only ran for president to do exactly what he's doing right now, to protect himself, his family, those associated with him, and all the strong arm tactics that the DNC was doing in 2020 and beyond, right? Concerning all the foolishness behind the Hunter Biden laptop and how Joe was able to strong arm Twitter at the time when they weren't ran by Elon Musk, and Facebook and Instagram. They were able to strong arm these social media platforms, making them false flag posts as misinformation that was not misinformation, right? He ran to protect himself. And Chuck Todd, literally, of all people, exposed that. And I just want to play just that second half of it one more time.
And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
So now, and I see some people in the chat, shout out to my man Ryan Glenn, with the mouth wide open face and whatnot, you know what I mean? And this was the reaction on Monday from people like, what? Of all people, you're exposing Joe right now? But give it time. 48 hours to be exact. 48 hours later, this again was Chuck Todd.
Turn to your latest column, too, on President Biden's pardon of his son, Hunter. You write that while people might understand his actions on a personal level, politically, this sets a new precedent. So how significant is that going into a second Trump term where he probably didn't need an excuse to do any of the stuff he was doing?
I understand that, and I've had folks, say, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but now you've given him a permission slip. Presidential acts, unprecedented any presidential act becomes a permission slip for the next president.
Yeah.
And we have seen this through history, through our own history and how the presidency has worked. Once one thing has happened, suddenly it becomes, well, we've done it before, so, we can do it again type of thing. And that's what this now, and there's two things about this that I think are extraordinarily troubling, not in a small way, but in a big way. The big one is, two of them are. One is the statement that Joe Biden made in and around the pardon, where he essentially used the exact same rhetoric that Donald Trump uses about the justice system. That, it was biased against Hunter Biden. You could have literally said, I could have said to you, did Donald Trump say this or did Biden say this? And a lot of people might have said, oh, this is something Trump would say. It's not something we were used to Joe Biden saying about the rule of law and about the justice system. Well, now so forget who started it. You have the leading Democrat in America and the leading Republican in America both agreeing on one thing. The Justice Department has been politicized. That is absolutely that is long-term damaging. This is no longer short-term damaging. This is no longer one election at a time. And then it's that. So now we're in a situation where every party's going to come in, and as they leave, everybody gets their security blanket pardon. Okay, how long do you want it? You want a 10-year window? Because we now have established this 10-year window of whatever you can, this get out of jail free card. Is it going to be June 15th, 2015, the day he came down the escalator, to July 20th, 2029? Well, guess what? There's now a precedent for it. That's what's so damaging about this decision. Guess what? I understand he probably couldn't live with himself if he didn't do it. And ultimately, I get it.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't live with himself if he didn't do it. And ultimately, I get it. Weren't you just the man that we were watching over here dragging Biden for doing this? We literally just got done watching him drag Biden for doing this on this podcast over here. But like 48 hours later, he gets back on NBC and he's saying, I understand. And he probably wouldn't have been able to sleep at night had he didn't do it. And they had to find a way to weave Donald Trump's name into it to make it seem as if some way, somehow, Donald Trump's responsible for this. Donald Trump's the reason that he had to do this so that they can protect, democracy and foolishness like that. You get what I'm saying? They found a way to weave it in there. A lot of people are pointing out the fact that all of a sudden, the same thing that Donald Trump was saying about the DOJ being weaponized and politicized, that the DNC was saying, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist for saying this. Now, all of a sudden, Joe Biden is trying to claim that same thing concerning his son when it's his DOJ. And he's the one that's sitting in the White House. But you're trying to claim the same thing that Donald Trump was saying. And to muddy the waters and to excuse Biden for this, what you just heard Chuck Todd do was saying, well, if you put those statements side by side, you'd never know. You would have thought that Donald Trump said it, but never mind that. Just erase it, strike it from the record. Let's pretend like Joe Biden isn't flip-flopping right now. Let's pretend like he isn't the crook that we all know him to be. Let's just pretend. And you know what? Forget about it. This is unbelievable. And it's going to be interesting to see how things carry on moving forward if he actually does follow through with these preemptive pardons. Because once again, Pandora's box has now been open, right? I'm pretty sure that Trump will give a blanket pardon to J6ers, something that I don't care if he does. That's fine with me. He may possibly even give a pardon and dismiss the charges of Eric Adams in New York, which I don't have a problem with. That's fine with me too, right? Not a big deal to me. As the saying goes, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So sure, yeah, go ahead and pardon him. But at the same time, as those pardons aren't a big deal to me, but we know it's going to be a big deal to MSNBC, and they're going to pretend like ISIS has been unleashed, right? Though it's not a big deal when Trump possibly does this stuff moving forward. Once again, it's not necessarily about right now. It's about the rabbit hole that we are all now falling into moving forward post the Trump election, right? It's about how people start to utilize these pardons after the fact. Because once again, in closing, as I wrap this up, the people that say they were trying to protect us from a dictatorship and from corruption are those very people that they claim they are trying to protect us from. And they are actually the ones that set up the situation so that moving forward, they can continue to operate in the corrupt manner that they claim they were saving us from. And with all that being said, that does it for today's show. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. That is extremely important that you follow me on Telegram. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section as well. Now what I want to do is that I want to get into some super chats. I want to thank you guys who supported the show today, because I do not exist without everyone's support. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Let's get into this right now from my man, Ron Livingston. Ron stated, "I'm not going to lie. Those presentations sound mad boring." Hey, talking about when Joe fell asleep. I'll pull this back up on the screen right now while I'm reading this off. Those presentations sound mad boring. LOL. Joe is going to these meetings knowing this crap ain't got nothing to do with him. He's got 6 weeks left in the job. I feel it. Joe Biden's like, look, man, I'm out of here in 6 weeks. Let me just, I don't, whatever you're talking about right now, that has nothing to do with me. Let me just go ahead. I'm about to be out of office soon anyway. None of this stuff matters. So, I feel it, Ron. I feel it. And I appreciate you, Ron. Shout out to my man, Cutthroat Rod. Cutthroat Rod said, Tiffany lost her seat as supervisor. Democrats are running scared. And payday was on my birthday. Payday was on your birthday? This proves that there is a God. Whenever payday lands on your birthday, that is always proof that God exists. Okay, remember that. Payday lands on your birthday, that's proof that there is a God in heaven that loves you. Remember that, Cutthroat Route. And I appreciate the support. And shout out to my man, Untried Genius, man. Untried Genius said, did you forget Dr. F is the science? He is the science. Just be careful taking his science. Just a little, be careful taking Dr. F's science. All right. And I appreciate you all for joining me today, man. I'm going to head on out of here. Have a great afternoon and a great morning if you're over here in LA with me. Peace and be safe.